In the peaceful mountain town of Daejeon, surrounded by misty peaks and dense forests, Dr. Han Tae-il spent his nights watching the stars. His small radio astronomy station sat atop a hill, away from the city lights. The aging scientist had dedicated 2 decades of his life to this work, listening to the whispers of distant stars and galaxies through his array of radio telescopes. The station itself was modest, a collection of dishes and antennae connected to aging but well-maintained equipment. The main room held several computers, their screens casting a soft blue glow across the worn wooden floors. Star charts and mathematical formulas covered the walls, pinned up over the years as Dr. Han pursued his passion for the cosmos. On this particular night, as autumn winds rustled through the trees outside, something changed. The usual background noise of space, the steady hum of cosmic radiation and stellar activity, shifted. Dr. Han was about to end his shift when he noticed an unusual pattern in the data stream. His weathered hands froze over the keyboard as he watched the numbers scroll across his screen. The signal pulsed with perfect timing, too perfect to be natural. Each burst lasted exactly 3 seconds, followed by a pause of precise length. The pattern repeated without variation every 127 seconds. Dr. Han's heart began to race as he recorded the data, his fingers trembling slightly as they moved across the keys. His research partner, Kim Dae-sung, had fallen asleep in the old leather chair in the corner. The younger man often stayed late, sharing Dr. Han's dedication to their work. Empty coffee cups and scattered notes surrounded him, evidence of another long night of observation. "Professor Kim," Dr. Han called out, his voice barely above a whisper at first, then louder. "Professor Kim, you need to see this." Kim Dae-sung stirred, adjusting his round glasses as he blinked away sleep. He moved to join Dr. Han at the main console, his usually neat appearance slightly rumpled from his impromptu nap. The younger scientist leaned over the equipment, his expression changing from tired to alert as he observed the readings. "This can't be right," he muttered, reaching for the controls. "Let me check the equipment calibration." For the next hour, they ran every test they could think of. They checked their instruments, verified their readings, and examined the signal from every angle. The pattern remained consistent, a series of prime numbers encoded in a way that defied natural explanation. Over the next 3 days, they barely left the station. They took turns sleeping on the old couch in the break room, eating simple meals from the vending machine down the hall. They recorded every second of data, analyzed every pattern, and double-checked every calculation. Dr. Han reached out to his old colleagues at the National Observatory. He sent their findings to universities and research centers across the country. But the responses were all the same: polite dismissals and skeptical explanations. Equipment malfunction, they said. Solar interference. Radio noise from satellites or aircraft. But Dr. Han knew better. In 20 years of watching the sky, he had seen every kind of interference, every type of malfunction. This was different. The signal continued its steady rhythm, day and night, unchanging and precise. Each pulse carried information, complex mathematical sequences that couldn't be random. Late on the 3rd night, as they watched another set of numbers scroll across their screens, Kim Dae-sung spoke up. "They think we're wrong because they're afraid to believe we might be right." Dr. Han nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving the display. The signal had become stronger, clearer. Whatever it was, wherever it came from, it was trying to tell them something. The mainstream scientific community might dismiss their findings, but here in their modest mountain station, they had discovered something extraordinary. As the autumn moon rose over the mountains of Daejeon, 2 scientists watched and waited, recording a message from the unknown. They didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. The signal that pulsed through their instruments would soon change not just their lives, but the very understanding of humanity's place in the universe. In the quiet of their observatory, surrounded by humming equipment and glowing screens, Dr. Han and Professor Kim continued their work. They were no longer just observers of the cosmos. They had become the first recipients of a message that would reshape human history. The signal kept its steady beat, counting out prime numbers in the darkness, waiting for someone to understand its meaning. Li Ji-won pushed open the heavy glass doors of her father's research lab, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. The building was quiet at this late hour, with only the soft hum of computers and equipment filling the air. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her mother had been clear about staying home to study for tomorrow's mathematics exam. But the pull of her father's work was too strong to resist. At 16, Ji-won had already taught herself 5 programming languages. While other students struggled with basic computer classes, she spent her free time creating complex algorithms and small games. Her teachers called her gifted, but to Ji-won, coding was as natural as breathing. The lab was dark except for the blue glow of computer screens. Her father, Dr. Lee, had been working late every night since receiving the strange signal data from the mountain observatory. She found him slumped over his keyboard, his coffee long gone cold beside him. Ji-won quietly sat at the neighboring workstation, not wanting to wake him. The signal data was still displayed on his screen. Endless streams of numbers that had puzzled the country's best scientists for the past week. She began copying the data to her own computer, more out of curiosity than any real plan. As she studied the numbers, a pattern began to emerge. It wasn't just the prime number sequence that others had noticed. There was something else hidden in the data. The way the numbers grouped together reminded her of the image compression algorithms she'd been studying in her spare time. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as she wrote test code, trying different combinations and patterns. Each attempt revealed a little more of what lay hidden in the signal. Her excitement grew as the pieces started falling into place. "Dad," she whispered, then louder, "Dad, wake up. You need to see this." Dr. Lee stirred, blinking in confusion at his daughter. "Ji-won, what are you doing here? You should be at home studying." "Look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "The signal. It's not just mathematics. It's an encoding algorithm for images, like how we compress photos to send them over the internet, but far more advanced." Her father leaned forward, suddenly alert. "Show me." Ji-won's fingers flew across the keyboard as she explained. "See these repeating patterns? They're not just numbers, they're pixels. The signal is broken into layers, each one containing different parts of the image data. I just need to write a program to reconstruct it." For the next hour, father and daughter worked together. Dr. Lee watched in amazement as his teenage daughter wrote complex code that professional programmers would struggle to create. Line by line, she built a program to decode the alien signal. The first image began to form on their screen, blurry at first, then becoming clearer as Ji-won refined her code. What they saw made them both gasp. The image showed what looked like a city, but not one built of steel and concrete. The structures were organic, flowing forms that seemed to pulse with life. "Wait," Dr. Lee said, adjusting his glasses. "These measurements can't be right." He checked the scale markers embedded in the image data. According to this, these structures are microscopic, smaller than a human cell. Ji-won decoded more images. Each one revealed more details of this microscopic world. They saw beings moving through these tiny cities, not aliens as anyone had imagined them, but creatures that seemed to exist between the boundaries of organic and mechanical life. "They're not out there at all," Ji-won whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes. "They're here. They've been here all along." The images kept coming. Vast networks of these microscopic civilizations, existing in perfect harmony with the natural world around them. The signal hadn't come from distant stars. It had come from somewhere much closer to home. Dr. Lee reached for his phone with shaking hands. "We need to call the observatory and the Institute of Microbiology. Everything we thought we knew about life on Earth. It's all going to change." Ji-won finished, still typing as more images appeared on her screen. The tiny cities, the microscopic beings, the hidden world that had existed alongside humanity for countless years. It was all there in the signal, waiting to be discovered. As the first light of dawn began to creep through the lab windows, father and daughter sat in stunned silence, watching as their discovery unveiled itself one image at a time. Thanks to a teenage girl's passion for coding, humanity was about to learn that they had never been alone on their planet. The greatest first contact story in human history hadn't come from the stars. It had been right here all along, hidden in a world too small to see. Park Min-ho stood in his laboratory, staring through the most powerful microscope the Korean Institute of Microbiology possessed. His hands were steady, but his heart raced as he carefully adjusted the focus. On the slide before him was what appeared to be a normal bacteria sample, but he now knew it was anything but normal. The images Dr. Lee and his daughter had decoded were spread across his desk, along with readings from dozens of different tests. For 3 days straight, he had barely left the laboratory, examining samples from various sources, comparing them to the decoded images. Each test confirmed what seemed impossible. There was an entire civilization living at the microscopic level. Around him, a team of scientists worked in focused silence, each running their own tests and observations. They had all signed strict confidentiality agreements, but rumors were already beginning to spread through the scientific community. Something big was happening at the Institute. Through the microscope, Min-ho watched as the bacterial colonies moved with unmistakable purpose and organization. What had once appeared random now revealed itself as carefully planned patterns. The structures matched perfectly with the decoded images. Tiny cities and networks existing in a world smaller than a grain of salt. His assistant, Yu Hyan, approached with another set of test results. Dr. Park, the DNA analysis is complete. The structures we're seeing, they're not just bacterial formations. There's evidence of artificial modification at the molecular level. Technology we can't even begin to understand. Min-ho straightened up from the microscope, rubbing his tired eyes. "Have you ever wondered," he said quietly, "why bacteria evolved such complex communication systems? Why they can adapt so quickly to almost any environment? We always assumed it was natural evolution. But it wasn't." Hyan finished. They had help. The revelation was staggering. These microscopic beings had been living alongside Earth's bacteria for millions of years, guiding their evolution, building their civilizations in the spaces between our cells. And now, they were finally reaching out to make contact. The first communication came through a specially designed interface that the aliens themselves had helped create through their bacterial networks. The message appeared on their lab computers, translated from the complex chemical signals the microscopic beings used to communicate. "We have existed alongside your world since before your species walked upright," the message read. "We have watched your evolution, your progress, your discoveries. We choose to reveal ourselves now because we face a common crisis." Min-ho and his team learned that the aliens had maintained a delicate balance within Earth's bacterial ecosystem, but humanity's increasing use of broad-spectrum antibiotics and environmental pollutants was destroying that balance. Their microscopic civilization was under threat. To demonstrate the extent of their integration with Earth's systems, they offered a proof of their capabilities. At exactly 2:00 p.m., every electronic device in Seoul suddenly went dark. Traffic lights, computers, phones, even cars, everything shut down simultaneously. For 5 minutes, the city held its breath. Emergency services scrambled to respond, but before panic could truly set in, everything came back online, as if nothing had happened. The aliens had used their connection to the bacterial world to affect the electrical systems of an entire city, demonstrating both their power and their restraint. The world's governments could no longer ignore the evidence. Within hours of the Seoul demonstration, Park Min-ho found himself in a video conference with scientific leaders from around the globe. Each had received similar messages, similar evidence. The aliens had orchestrated a coordinated revelation that left no room for doubt. They could have remained hidden, Min-ho explained to the assembled scientists. They could have continued their existence without ever revealing themselves. Instead, they're asking for our help, our cooperation. They want to work with us to preserve the balance they've maintained for millions of years. As he spoke, more data flowed across their screens. Detailed information about bacterial communications, ecosystem balance, and the intricate relationship between their civilizations. The aliens were offering to share their knowledge, their technology, their understanding of life at its most fundamental level. In his laboratory, surrounded by evidence of a truth that would change human history, Park Min-ho realized that this was more than just a scientific discovery. It was an opportunity for humanity to learn from beings who had mastered the art of living in harmony with their environment, who had built entire civilizations without destroying the world around them. The world had listened to their demonstration of power. Now it was time to listen to their wisdom. As Min-ho prepared his official report for the government, he knew that everything was about to change. The line between life and technology, between the microscopic and the visible world, was about to blur in ways that would reshape humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. The Grand Hall of the United Nations fell silent as Choi Yun-hee took her place at the podium. The Korean representative's dark blue suit stood in sharp contrast to the pale marble walls behind her. Every seat in the General Assembly was filled, and all eyes focused on her as she arranged her notes with steady hands. This was not her first address to the Assembly, but it was certainly her most important. Behind her calm exterior, her heart beat rapidly. The weight of what she was about to propose felt heavy on her shoulders. "Distinguished colleagues," she began, her voice clear and measured. "1 month ago, our world changed forever when we discovered we were not alone. Today, I stand before you with a proposal from our microscopic neighbors, one that could change the course of human history." The chamber remained perfectly still as she activated the holographic display. Above the podium, three-dimensional images appeared, showing the intricate structures of the alien civilization living within Earth's bacterial world. The images had become familiar to many over the past weeks, but they still drew gasps of wonder. "Our new allies have existed alongside us for millions of years," Yun-hee continued. "They have achieved what we humans have long struggled to accomplish, perfect harmony with their environment. Now they offer to share this knowledge with us, not through simple technology transfer, but through something far more profound." She touched a control, and the display changed to show detailed biological diagrams. "They propose a partnership through controlled symbiosis, a careful, voluntary merger of our biology with their advanced capabilities." Murmurs spread through the assembly as she explained the details. The aliens had developed a way to create a safe, controlled bond between their microscopic systems and human biology. The process would be completely voluntary, reversible, and carefully monitored. "The benefits are extraordinary," Yun-hee said, changing the display again to show medical data. "Early tests show enhanced healing abilities, wounds that would take weeks to heal now closing in days. Cognitive function improves dramatically. Most importantly, those who undergo the process gain access to the aliens' vast knowledge network, a biological internet spanning our entire planet." Questions erupted from the assembly floor. Representatives from every nation wanted to know more. Was it safe? How had it been tested? What were the risks? Yun-hee addressed each concern with careful precision. "The process has been thoroughly tested on willing volunteers from our scientific community. All results have been verified by independent medical teams from 5 different countries. The aliens themselves have used similar symbiotic relationships for millions of years." The Brazilian representative stood up. "And what do they want in return?" "Survival," Yun-hee answered simply. "Our current use of antibiotics and environmental practices threatens their existence. Through this partnership, they seek to help us develop better, more targeted medical treatments that won't harm their civilization. They want to teach us how to live in balance with our world, as they have done for eons." Debates broke out across the chamber. Some nations saw incredible opportunity, a chance to solve many of humanity's greatest challenges through biological advancement. Others expressed deep concerns about changing human nature itself. This is not conquest, Yunhee emphasized, her voice rising above the discussion. They could have remained hidden. They could have fought back against our unintentional destruction of their world. Instead, they offer partnership. They wish to teach us, to help us evolve, but only if we choose to accept. The Russian representative spoke up. How can we trust them? How do we know this isn't a more subtle form of invasion? Yunhee smiled slightly. Because they've had countless opportunities to harm us over millions of years, yet they chose to help us instead. The bacteria they've guided have been essential to human life from our beginning. They've been protecting and supporting Earth's biosphere since before our species existed. As the session continued, Yunhee presented more data, more evidence, more test results. The science was clear and undeniable. This was a genuine offer of partnership from a civilization far older and in many ways wiser than humanity. We stand at a crossroads, she concluded, looking out over the assembly. We can choose to embrace this opportunity, to learn from beings who have mastered the art of living in harmony with their world. Or we can choose to continue as we are, slowly destroying their world and ours through ignorance. The choice is ours, but we must make it together. As she stepped away from the podium, the chamber erupted in discussion. Representatives formed small groups, debating intensely. But Yunhee noticed something interesting. The fear that had dominated early reactions was being replaced by curiosity and hope. The world was beginning to see what she already understood. This was humanity's chance to become something greater than they had ever imagined. The integration chamber glowed with soft blue light as Dr. Kang Jae-hun lay back on the comfortable medical bed. Around him, monitors displayed his vital signs, while microscopic sensors tracked the smallest changes in his body chemistry. Despite the historic nature of what he was about to undergo, the room felt peaceful, almost spa-like. As the lead researcher in human-alien integration studies, he had insisted on being the first volunteer. His colleagues had tried to talk him out of it, arguing that someone younger should take the risk. But Jae-hun knew it had to be him. He had studied the process for months, and his trust in their microscopic allies was absolute. The symbiosis began with what looked like ordinary water, a carefully prepared solution containing billions of the alien organisms. As he drank it, Dr. Lee's team watched closely through their instruments, tracking the progress of the integration. Jae-hun closed his eyes, expecting to feel something dramatic. Instead, he experienced a gentle warmth spreading through his body. "How do you feel?" Dr. Lee asked, checking the readings. "Peaceful," Jae-hun replied, surprised by his own calmness, like floating in warm water. Over the next few hours, the aliens established their network throughout his body, carefully integrating with his natural systems. It felt more like a meditation session than a medical procedure. Jae-hun remained awake and alert throughout, describing his experiences to the research team. The first changes became noticeable within days. Jae-hun found himself able to understand complex mathematical equations that had previously taken him hours to solve. His mind felt clearer, sharper, as if a fog he hadn't known existed had lifted. 2 weeks after the procedure, he accidentally cut his hand while cooking dinner. Before he could reach for a bandage, he watched in amazement as the wound closed itself, leaving no trace of injury. He could feel the microscopic allies in his body directing the healing process, working in perfect harmony with his natural systems. Word of his success spread quickly. Baz Sunmai, a well-known digital artist, became the second volunteer. She had always created beautiful works, but after integration, her art transformed into something entirely new. She could perceive colors beyond normal human vision and translate them into her work. Her first post-integration exhibition left viewers speechless, experiencing emotions and sensations they had never felt before. "It's like having a new sense," Sunmai explained to reporters. "I don't just see the world. I feel its patterns, its rhythms. Every sunset is a symphony of light and energy that I can capture in my art." Kim Do-hyun, a high school teacher in Seoul, joined the program next. His transformation particularly impressed the review board. He had always been a good teacher, but after integration, his ability to connect with students reached extraordinary levels. He could sense their emotional states, understand their learning difficulties, and adapt his teaching style instantly to each student's needs. "I can feel when they're confused," Do Hyun said during a demonstration class. "Not just from their expressions or body language. I actually sense their understanding or confusion. It's like having an emotional radar that helps me be exactly the teacher they need." The integration program expanded carefully, with each new volunteer adding to their understanding of the symbiosis. Athletes found their reaction times improved beyond human limits. Musicians discovered they could hear and create harmonies that had never existed before. Scientists made breakthroughs in their research, guided by their enhanced cognitive abilities. What impressed observers most was how normal the integrated humans remained. They were still themselves, with the same personalities and memories. The aliens didn't change who they were. They simply enhanced their natural abilities and added new ones. The process wasn't without its challenges. Each person's integration experience was unique, and some took longer to adjust than others. The research team worked carefully, selecting volunteers who showed both physical and psychological readiness for the change. 6 months after the first integration, Dr. Kang Jae-hun stood before an international medical conference. As he shared his experiences, he demonstrated some of his enhanced abilities. He solved complex physics equations instantly, showed real-time visualization of his own cellular processes, and healed a small cut on his arm while the audience watched in amazement. "This isn't about becoming superhuman," he explained to the gathered doctors and scientists. "It's about understanding our true potential. Our alien friends aren't changing us. They're helping us become what we always could have been." In his private journal, Jae-hun wrote about the most profound aspect of his transformation: the sense of connection he now felt to all living things. Through the alien's vast network, he could sense the pulse of life in the world around him, from the smallest bacteria to the largest trees. It gave him a new appreciation for the delicate balance of Earth's ecosystem. As more volunteers joined the program, humanity began to glimpse its future, not a future of conquest or competition, but one of harmony and understanding. The integration was more than just a scientific breakthrough. It was the beginning of humanity's next great step forward. The first warning came from a small medical lab in Busan. A technician noticed unusual readings in routine water samples, traces of a new, highly aggressive antibiotic compound. Within hours, similar reports flooded in from cities across Asia. Someone was releasing an experimental drug into the water supply. Ko Yun-hee received the alert during a UN committee meeting. Her enhanced senses, gained through symbiosis, immediately recognized the danger. The antibiotic wasn't just powerful. It was specifically designed to target the alien bacterial networks that now lived in harmony with Earth's ecosystem. "Get me Dr. Kang," she told her assistant, gathering her papers quickly, "and contact every environmental response team in the Asian-Pacific region. We have an emergency." The group behind the attack called themselves Pure Earth. Their message appeared on news networks and social media simultaneously. They claimed the alien symbiosis was an invasion that needed to be stopped. Their solution was a designer antibiotic, created in secret labs, that would eliminate all traces of the alien presence. Dr. Kang Jae-hun arrived at the crisis center as reports of the antibiotic's effects began coming in. Through his enhanced awareness, he could feel the distress signals spreading through the bacterial network. The artificial antibiotic was aggressive, destroying both alien and natural bacteria indiscriminately. "They don't understand what they're doing," he explained to the emergency response team. "The aliens aren't just living in our water systems. They're essential to maintaining Earth's biological balance. If they die, entire ecosystems could collapse." Yun-hee coordinated with environmental teams across the region. Early tests showed the antibiotic spreading through rivers and groundwater. It wasn't just threatening the alien civilization. It was killing beneficial bacteria that plants and animals needed to survive. Through their symbiotic connection, both Yun-Hee and Dr. Kang could sense the aliens' response to the crisis. Instead of retreating to safe havens deep in the Earth's crust, the microscopic civilization chose to stay and fight. They began adapting their structures to protect not just themselves, but all the beneficial bacteria under attack. "They're teaching me how to help," Dr. Kang said, his eyes closed in concentration. "They're showing us how to create a countermeasure." Working together, integrated humans and their alien partners developed a solution. The aliens could produce compounds that would neutralize the antibiotic, but they needed help to distribute it quickly enough. Human technology and alien biology would have to work in perfect harmony. Water treatment plants became command centers. Teams of integrated humans used their enhanced abilities to direct the alien response. They could sense where the antibiotic was strongest and guide the neutralizing compounds to those areas first. Yun-Hee found herself in the middle of the action, her diplomatic skills now enhanced by her ability to communicate directly through the bacterial network. She coordinated between human authorities and the alien consciousness, ensuring their responses worked together smoothly. The Pure Earth group hadn't expected such an organized response. They had thought the aliens would be defenseless against their weapon. Instead, they faced the combined strength of two civilizations working as one. Hour by hour, the crisis teams made progress. Water systems were cleared of the harmful antibiotic. Damaged bacterial colonies began to recover. The alien network, far from being destroyed, proved its resilience and its commitment to protecting Earth's biosphere. In the crisis center, Dr. Kang monitored the recovery efforts. Through his enhanced senses, he could feel the healing spreading through the ecosystem. The aliens weren't just fixing the damage, they were teaching beneficial bacteria how to resist similar attacks in the future. "They could have saved themselves and left us to deal with the consequences," he told Yun-Hee during a quiet moment. "Instead, they risked everything to protect our world too." As the immediate danger passed, investigation teams tracked down the Pure Earth members. They found not hardened terrorists, but scared people who had acted out of fear and misunderstanding. The group's leaders were surprised to learn that their attack had endangered not just the aliens, but all life on Earth. The crisis changed public opinion about the alien symbiosis. People saw how the microscopic civilization had fought to protect Earth's environment instead of just protecting themselves. Their commitment to their adopted home was clear. 1 week after the crisis began, Yun-Hee stood before the UN again. She described how human and alien cooperation had prevented an ecological disaster. The Pure Earth incident, she explained, had proven something important. The aliens were no longer just visitors or partners. They were part of Earth's family, committed to protecting their shared home. In his laboratory, Dr. Kang studied samples from the affected areas. The ecosystem was recovering, and in many ways, it was stronger than before. The crisis had forced the evolution of more resilient bacterial networks. Human and alien science working together had turned a potential disaster into an opportunity for growth. The Pure Earth crisis ended, but its lessons remained. It showed that the partnership between humans and their microscopic allies was more than just a scientific advancement. It was a commitment to protecting and preserving life in all its forms. The Grand Hall of the International Science Conference buzzed with excitement as Song Hae-Newell approached the podium. Thousands of scientists, both integrated and non-integrated, filled the seats. The air felt charged with anticipation. 1 year had passed since humanity discovered their microscopic neighbors, and Hae-Newell was about to reveal their greatest discovery yet. Holographic displays sprang to life around her, showing complex networks of bacterial communication stretching across space. The images started with Earth, then expanded outward to nearby stars, then to entire galaxies. The audience watched in amazement as the true scale of the alien civilization became clear. What we initially thought was a local phenomenon, Hae-Newell began, her voice steady and clear, is actually part of something far greater. The bacterial network that our allies created doesn't just span our planet. It reaches across the stars themselves. She gestured to a new image showing the detailed structure of the communication network. Through their microscopic size, the aliens had found a way to use quantum connections between bacteria to send messages instantly across vast distances. Earth's bacterial network was just one node in an enormous web of communication that spanned the galaxy. They didn't choose Earth by accident. Haynul continued. They seeded thousands of planets with their networks, waiting to see which would develop life capable of joining their community. We are not their first success, but we are among their most recent. The displays showed other worlds where similar partnerships had formed. Some civilizations had been part of the network for millions of years. Others were just beginning their journey, like humanity. Each remained unique, while benefiting from the shared knowledge of the whole. Haynul touched her temple gently, accessing the enhanced awareness that integration had given her. Right now, I can sense communications from civilizations hundreds of light years away. They're welcoming us, sharing their stories, offering their friendship. The audience listened intently as she described how the alien network had shaped Earth's evolution, the development of complex life, the rise of intelligence, even humanity's growing awareness of environmental issues. All had been gently guided by their microscopic allies. But they never interfered directly, she explained. They waited until we were ready to understand them, ready to join them as equals. They knew that humanity needed to develop its own path, make its own choices. In the front row, Dr. Kang nodded in agreement. His own research had shown how carefully the aliens had maintained this balance, supporting without controlling, guiding without forcing. It was a level of patience and wisdom that humanity was only beginning to understand. Haynul moved to the heart of her presentation. The most remarkable thing isn't the technology or the biology. It's the philosophy behind it all. Our allies believe in partnership, in mutual growth and understanding. They don't seek to conquer or control. They want to connect and share. The displays showed examples of how Earth had changed in the past year. Cities were cleaner, healthier, more in harmony with nature. New technologies had emerged from the combination of human innovation and alien wisdom. Diseases that once seemed incurable were being healed through enhanced immune systems and bacterial cooperation. But look closer, Haynul said, zooming in on images of daily life. We're still human. Our art, our music, our love of family and community. These things haven't changed. They've been enhanced, enriched, but not replaced. She showed clips of children playing in parks, their enhanced awareness letting them understand and care for the nature around them. Scientists working together, combining traditional methods with new insights gained through integration. Artists creating works that bridged the gap between human emotion and universal understanding. This was their gift to us, Haynul said softly. Not just knowledge or technology, but a way to grow while remaining true to ourselves. They waited millions of years not because we weren't ready technologically, but because we needed to be ready spiritually and emotionally. As she concluded her presentation, Haynul looked out at the mixed audience. Some had chosen integration. Others had not. Both groups worked together, each respecting the other's choice. This, too, was part of the aliens' plan, allowing humanity to find its own balance, its own path forward. We stand at the beginning of a new chapter in human history, she said, but we aren't leaving our old story behind. We're adding to it, enriching it, making it part of something greater than we ever imagined. The stars are no longer just distant lights. They're filled with friends waiting to share their stories with us. The applause that followed wasn't just for her presentation. It was a celebration of how far humanity had come, and an expression of hope for where they were going. As Haynul stepped down from the stage, she could feel the pulse of the bacterial network, carrying her words to civilizations across the galaxy. Earth's story was now part of a greater tale, one that had been waiting millions of years to be told.